You probably remember Winx Club as this weird Sailor Moon type show where a Mary Sue redhead goes to fairy school and fights some bitches, all while getting approximately 95% of the screen time compared to her friends. And depending on your age, you probably remember it as either something airing on 4Kids TV or Foxbox or whatever, that Nickelodeon resurrected into a shambling zombie for money. Or as a weird Nickelodeon series that kinda just disappeared after a few years of bad marketing and changing schedules.
Every weekday.
Alright girls, see you when I see you.
Winx Club, the brand new series.
Well, the franchise has a very strange, interesting history, beginning all the way back in the Marche region of Italy, and we're here to talk about that today. Why? Because no one else dares to. I walk the path less traveled by, the road of shame and humility, whose end is obscure at a distance, and honestly infernal upon arrival. Translation, I'm gonna regret this. But you know what, it'll probably make for good content. So now let's dive into the franchise's origins and see just how it came to be, and what the hell it even was to begin with. This is essentially just gonna be a very brief overview, and we'll go into details in subsequent parts. Oh, by the way, this is gonna be a series. Oh, it's a good thing I'm of legal drinking age now.
Techna, maybe you're being a bit too harsh about all this.
I'm just saying that from a business standpoint, none of these decisions make any—
guys, ixnay on the anti-spray. Hello, all you wonderful viewers and trolls.
Stella, maybe don't insult our audience just
I'm
yet.
sorry, I'm just so excited for us to turn over a new leaf. A second
The
chance.
chance that your squelching is hindering.
Welcome, dear humans. My name is Bloom, and we are the Winx. Totally not irrelevant icons. Follow us, and you will discover the Marche, a land of magical beauty where all our confusion begins.
Hey, why didn't I get more lines?
At least you got lines.
Girls, let's fight amongst ourselves.
Flora, why won't you let me scream? If none of you shut up, I will literally roast you.
Why did I ever join this club?
Future creator of Winx Club and CEO of Rainbow SRL, Eugenio Straffi was born on May 30th, 1965 in the small municipality of Gualdo, found within the Marche region of central Italy. Known for its beautiful natural scenery, from its rolling hills and mountains to its luxurious beaches, the Marche prides itself on its protection of its environment. The Marche's seemingly progressive attitudes compared to the rest of Italy, along with its emphasis on environmentalism, do actually make sense considering the diversity found within the franchise, as well as its more recent stories revolving around some kind of movement to defend the environment. Whether it's the ocean, wildlife, or some other cause that the writers would probably do more harm than good trying to address by bashing it over the audience's head every 5 minutes. But I mean, A for effort, I suppose.
I need more pollution. The toxins from that floating garbage are just what I needed. I've never seen so much garbage. It's perfect.
Bye, bitch.
Straffi's professional career began with work as a comic book artist, first at the Italian publishers Comic Arts, and later Sergio Bonelli Editore. It's difficult to find credits of specific comics he worked on during this time, but he supposedly had a large hand in the Nick Raider series. Oh fate, you cruel bastard. At the age of 27, he relocated to France, where he transitioned into work on storyboarding and even directing several animated series, which, again, seem to have been hidden from the world. Whether there are dark secrets buried within these projects that Straffi would prefer not to be known, it likely boils down to me missing something right in front of me as usual, or just no one caring enough to cite the sources. And then, just 3 years later, he would return to the Marche and create what would go on to become known as the Disney of Italy. Rainbow SPA. Now known as Rainbow SRL, the company was founded in 1995 as an animation studio largely providing animation services for other studios. Then in 1996, Rainbow did its own thing, and with Eugenio collaborating with co-creator Max Alessandrini, made 2 characters which would garner quite a bit of success for the company throughout Europe. 10-year-old Tommy and his terrifying friend Oscar, who, believe it or not, is actually E.T.'s horrifically disfigured younger brother. Oddly enough, the 2 titular characters started in an educational CD-ROM called The Phantom of the Theater, and then another called Mission Music in 1998. And also, oddly enough, Yukari, this girl who, yes, does look like a stereotypical Japanese character, but we're gonna move past this, actually resembles a certain fairy of music quite a bit. But it wasn't until 1999 that these 2 would receive their own full-fledged animated series, which ran for 52 episodes. With this, Rainbow would go on to create their own stories. After the success of the series, Rainbow would then create its second animated series called Prezzemolo, which unfortunately, despite its name, does not follow a magical pretzel wizard and his salty escapades, but rather follows the story of a dragon by the name of Prezzemolo trying to defeat an evil witch named Zenda trying to conquer the kingdom of Lemur. Yeah, I don't get it either, but good for quality dragon representation? They're not all mindless, violent, bloodthirsty beasts. Looking at you, Smaug. Rainbow would create other series, including Monster Allergy, which ran for 2 seasons, but it wasn't until 2004 that the company would create a show that would become an undeniable global phenomenon. First premiering in Italy on January 28, 2004, Winx Club's first season ran till March 26th of that same year on both RAI 2, in Italian known as RAI 2, and RAI Gulp. These channels, along with RAI 1 and RAI 3, are owned by larger parent company RAI, short for Radio Televisione Italiana. The story follows 16-year-old Bloom, who no is not anorexic. The art style is just meant to mimic fashion sketches, and one of the girls legit devours everything in front of her. Please calm down. Anyways, Bloom lives in the sleepy town of Gardenia on Earth with her parents Mike and Vanessa, and her adorable demonic bunny Kiko, who is by far the best thing to come out of this entire franchise, and I will fight you on that. Bloom then goes on to meet Stella, the Princess of Celeria and Fairy of the Sun and the Moon, who helps Bloom learn she has magic too and takes her to Alfea, the esteemed college for fairies in the magical universe. An entire universe filled with unique worlds that literally run on magic, and surprisingly have quite a few sci-fi elements. They meet new friends, including Flora, Musa, and Tecna, learn to use their powers effectively, and battle the evil tricks from the Cloud Tower College for Witches. Then there's some other crap with Bloom learning she's the princess of a dead planet that got genocided by the Trix's predecessors, the trick stealing Bloom's ancient dragonflame powers and summoning an endless army of horrific rot monsters, and an all-out war in which the girls kick more ass than they ought to. And bam, the season ends on quite a happy and very satisfying note. I mean, just look at this fight, y'all. Like, holy fucking shit. Like, what? Oh my god. It's literally a war. It is literally a fucking war. The first season is a relatively simple story where Bloom just tries to situate to her new surroundings and adjust to her newfound powers, eventually coming to realize that she isn't from Earth at all, and that there's much more to her past than she once thought. And it all comes to a head when the guy she's trusted to be by her side, Brandon, isn't Brandon at all, but rather Prince Sky of the planet Heraklion. And yes, there is a reason why he switched identities with, like, his other friend who's actually named Brandon that they explore in season 2, and it's actually quite fucked up. I mean, like, not upright fucked up, but, like, low-key fucked up. Like, there was terrorism involved. It was a thing. Bloom has embarrassed herself in front of the entire magical universe, and depending on the version that you watch, risked herself and her friends being expelled from Alfea. This is a journey about Bloom learning that no matter where she's from, she's still the same girl from the small town of Gardenia she's always been. Except now she can burn things with her mind, which is a plus. Oh, and she can also see into people's souls. This stops being a thing after season 2, but, you know, it's still really damn cool.
Hey, what are you looking at? Don't you know it's rude to stare at people? Sorry.
But beyond just Bloom, the show itself is quite unique, specifically in its world building. Instead of a traditional fantasy setting, the magical universe is literally that. An entire universe filled with different planets with vastly different designs. Granted, season 1 mostly focuses on the planet Magix, with the only other magical planet we get to see being the small glimpses of a frozen domino. But Magix itself is very much unique in its modern aesthetic with just a hint of sci-fi elements. The series totes flying cars, modern cityscapes, and a bunch of other sci-fi crap like spaceships and phantom weapons via the specialists, who are actually a tad more useful than I remember them being. The associations to Sailor Moon are largely superficial, most notably in the mere concept of the main cast being comprised of girls who transform and fight evil. Not to mention, the Winx aren't the only ones who can do that. In shows like Sailor Moon, along with another of Winx's contemporaries, Witch, the main girls are specifically chosen by some higher force, or are in some way special. And this is how they're granted their powers, inherently separating them from the normal folk. In Winx Club, however, that distinction lies in that the Winx are the ones who are primarily on the front lines, not because they were destined to be there, but because they chose to be. Even without her powers, Bloom still throws herself headfirst into danger because she believes it's the only way to stop the tricks. It's not about her being the only one who can do this, it's her feeling that it's the right thing to do. And this simple story with unique elements, especially with things that I haven't even touched on like the other girls' personalities, hints of their backstories, and definitely their powers. I mean, where else do you get to see characters with power over music and technology? Winx Club caught on everywhere.
They are the #1 show in Italy, France, Portugal, Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany, and Russia.
Did I just do that?
And now, they're taking over America. They are the Winx Club.
This is a mini-documentary released by Nickelodeon shortly before they premiered the first of 4 one-hour specials designed to quickly recap the first 2 seasons of the show back in 2011. We'll talk more about this railroad spike of a partnership down the road in the series, but suffice to say Winx Club was an incredible success beyond pretty much anyone's expectations. You could say it was an unexpected event. Get it? Because the first episode was called that in the Cineloom dub, which like 5 people watched. Yeah, okay, whatever. Let me have my obscure puns, damn it. Since its premiere, Winx Club has had 7 seasons, 182 episodes total, with season 8 due to release in Italy sometime next month, 3 theatrical CGI films with a 4th in the works along with a live-action movie and even a Netflix live-action series? Okay then. The 4 one-hour specials, a very brief spin-off series called Pop Pixie, which followed the supporting Pixie characters in a self-contained universe, and most recently a spin-off set in its own little self-contained universe on Netflix called World of Winx, which is actually really, really good. Like, oh god.
Sorry, Bloom, but you're just not important.
There's even a theme park based on Winx Club, as well as some of Rainbow's other properties, called Rainbow Magic Land. Not the best name, but what can you do? It's essentially Italy's answer to the Disney parks, and yes, that analogy does check out, because Eugenio has long been nicknamed the Walt Disney of Italy, with the only difference being only one of Straffi's shows ever really caught the world by storm, and the rest were anywhere from moderate successes to flops. Along with the show itself and the obvious merchandising element with the doll lines of varying quality, part of the Winx Club brand is its many albums, most by popular composer and vocal artist Elisa Rosselli, who can I just say has the voice of a fucking goddess. The woman can belt, both in English and Italian, and my favorite songs from her are This Big World,
The way I look, my love for life, guess I've got it all from you. And can you hear me sing my song from paradise?
You're the One, and The Magic of Cyrenix. Much like Ruby, music is vital to Winx Club's identity, though its approach is radically different, specifically in the need for most of the songs to mention that these girls are in fact the Winx, at least 7,000 times. Winx Club also excels in fashion, by which I mean approximately half the outfits are gorgeous and the other half exist. It's even gotten to the point where the girls have new outfits pretty much every episode, and there's a new art style meant to show off outfits called Fairy Couture, which takes the Winx's designs already being primarily based on fashion sketches and amps that up to 11. But as I mentioned before, while Winx Club at one point was incredibly popular, it's since faded from the public consciousness. If it is known, it's usually known for having a rabid fandom of children to match its childish tone. Not to mention various controversies over the girls being anorexic, which every other cartoon seems to get away with no problem, especially while one of the girls could literally eat an entire truck's worth of food in one sitting.
Stella, you're losing control of your sandwich.
Oh, Stella, you are my spirit animal. But this is all to say that while Rainbow found success with Winx Club, they haven't really done so with any of their other series. Huntic Secrets and Seekers was moderately known and enjoyed, but since its second season wrapped up all the way back in 2012, and the super obscure card game never quite caught on with the kids, it's gone radio silent, even though its finale could be considered decently open-ended. Aside from Winx Club, Rainbow's most successful series is arguably Regal Academy, which follows the granddaughter of Cinderella attending a fairy tale academy, and yeah, you can guess the rest of that story without me having to say any further. If it wants to survive, Rainbow kinda needs Winx Club, because nothing else has managed to become the kind of phenomenon Winx Club was. And even then, the franchise is, in the eyes of a large chunk of its own fanbase, a shadow of its former self. Winx Club caught on just about everywhere. Everywhere, that is, except in the English-speaking regions. There was a dub produced by the Canadian post-production company Cinelume, which dubs mostly European cartoons, which remained incredibly faithful to the original Italian version in sticking to the original scripts and not cutting material. The issue is that this dub only ran from September 2005 to February 2011, ending right as the Nickelodeon deal was struck, and the dub itself only ever aired on Octo in Singapore, nowhere else. Wait, you're wondering. If that dub only aired there, then what the fuck did I watch as a kid? Did I just hallucinate the whole thing? No, my friend, you did not. What you saw, as did most of us, was the 4Kids dub.
What so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming.
Most anime fans will remember 4Kids as probably one of the most evil, greedy, monstrous sons of bitches on the planet, because how dare they censor my Japanese anime and replace all the guns with badly photoshopped water guns and slingshots. Actually, no, these look more like they were made in MS Paint. Oh, whatever, you get the point. 4Kids Entertainment was a Konami-owned American production company responsible for butchering so many of the animes you grew up loving. See, anime didn't enjoy the relatively mainstream appeal it does now back in the 90s and early 2000s. And so when it was brought over, executives were like, why do these kid cartoons have so much violence and sex? Think of the children! And so they went on to censor and redub anime, even going as far as to make entirely new scores for their dubs because of how heavily they edited the original material. Now, the company itself is a bit of a dumpster fire in that it apparently closed its doors back in 2012, yet somehow exists in the form of 4K Media, and is apparently dubbing installments of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise. Okay then, alright. Inexplicably, they were the first ones to dub Winx Club and air it in the United States, Canada, the UK, and Australia, and their bad habits stuck. Names of worlds and terms were changed, scenes were recut and plot points changed, and the original score and soundtrack were scrapped and replaced with a new one, with a surprisingly pretty good OST, and a list of songs that won't shut up about them being girls.
Just don't touch the hair.
4Kids only ever dubbed the first 3 seasons, and so most people in the US who watched just assumed it got cancelled, and assumed that this in fact was the show's true form. The only way to watch the show as it was originally intended was to go hunting for the Cinelume dub, or as the fandom calls it, RAI English, online, mostly on YouTube. But even then, it could be hard switching between how different the styles of the dubs were, especially in their voice casts. While Cinelume at first struggled with most of its actors' performances, they eventually found their stride in the 3rd and especially 4th season, and honestly, it's my preferred dub to this day. There's an interesting variety in the cadences of the voices that you don't tend to find in a lot of other dubs, especially ones for this show. 4Kids, on the other hand, amplified the characters' personalities into easily marketable stereotypes. Stella's a princess who likes fashion and is also blonde? Make her the stereotypical popular valley girl. Musa likes music? Let's make her say things like wiggity whack or let's bounce. Techna smart? Let's make her English. I don't know how that one tracks, but alright. I'm not even joking. In a short piece of promotional material, Flora legitimately sounds like she smoked enough joints to create an entire world made out of cannabis. Here, just listen.
Source of power.
Flowers and plants.
Catchphrase.
Peace out.
We'll discuss the 4Kids and Cinelume dubs next time, but suffice to say this desire to break into the English-speaking markets would eventually lead to a terrible deal that would serve to permanently damage the franchise on a global scale, from which it would never recover even to this day. I won't say the company Rainbow struck the deal with, but I mean, y'all fuckers already know who they are. If it's not SpongeBob, they're killing it with fire. But most people who remember the Winx Club series have faint recollections of what they watched as children. The 4Kids version was a heavily altered, Americanized recut of the original Italian version, and the Cinelume dub, which remained faithful to the original, aired only in Singapore. To date, the series has had 5 English dubs, none of which have ever been able to fully cover the entire franchise, and the only one currently being produced is by Duart Film and Video, which is actually of surprisingly good quality. Each dub is of a different quality and takes a different approach to the series, so if we were to cover them all here, the video would easily be twice as long as it already is. And so next time we're going to be giving a brief overview of all of the dubs, but mostly the 4Kids and Cinelume dubs, along with the differences between them and the changes made by 4Kids that left most English-speaking fans misinformed about the story and characters. We're also going to be covering the first 2 movies, which were dubbed by dubbing brothers. We're basically going to be covering everything up to the Nickelodeon deal. If you actually enjoyed this tediously in-depth analysis and overview and would like to stay tuned for the rest of the series, then be sure to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications because YouTube hates creators. And I would just like to thank the voice actresses who lent their talents to this video. Y'all did a fucking great job. I love how that scene turned out. Yes. I would also ask you check out some of the voice actresses' YouTube channels in the description below. A lot of them do fan dubs and stuff, so the more support to them to show how much you enjoyed their performances, the better. They totally deserve it. If you'd like to further support the channel, then be sure to not only check out my other content, but to also consider joining the lovely Patreon family over on Patreon, and or checking out the links to my upcoming book in the description below. I'm the Unicorn of War, and this has been a shit show.